Welcome everybody to the Town Hall number 71. Hey Glenn, glad to see you're here. I see we've got a few folks. And today we've been asked to repeat a session. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. But before we get going, let's do the usual here and talk about our sponsors. So we'll move on to the next slide here. My name is John Best. I'm the CEO and co-founder of the Best Innovation Group, a company that does a lot of development on home banking platforms. We do a lot of consulting around the various digital strategy type features and innovation. Usually with me is my good friend, Mike Lawson. Today he cannot attend, so which he's picked up for me many times. So I'm thankful to fill in for him today. Let's talk about our sponsors just for a bit here. Oh, and we've got Ryan. Oh, he does have a beard there.
I did, yeah.
He also is my favorite son, thus my only son, who just passed his 6th year. But let me just real quick cover the sponsors before we go. So CUNA councils. If you have not attended the CUNA council meeting, Glenn, I know you've attended many. You are missing out. There are many different councils. There's a marketing council, a lending council, a tech council, an operations council, and many more. And what's nice about these councils is you can meet people from your discipline within the credit union space who have sometimes many years of experience. Sometimes they're brand new and they bring new things to the events. But the best part about the conferences is the speakers are great, but usually it's the people you meet, the problems you solve, and the relationships you make, and a lot of those are long term. For those of you that don't know, Correlation is the youngest and right now the hottest platform out there for credit unions that are looking for a new core. They have been growing steadily for some time, and their premise is that they're a very open core. And their whole purpose is that they want to be able to allow you to connect anything that you want to connect and to make it easy. And I can say from my good friend Jeff Dent, who often attends this event, that they have covered that. Member Pass. Brian, you ever call into a call center and you got like 50 questions before you can get the information you want?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you, as a millennial, prefer to be able to just have them go, hey, press this button on your phone,
right?
And you press it, and they go, "Oh, okay, it's you," and you move along.
Yeah,
that's what MemberPass does in a very secure and technical way. You see it right now a lot. Like, have you noticed that when you log into Google, if you add a new device, it wants you to go and confirm that on another device?
I use almost everything I use does that.
Yeah, so it's not surprising. It's definitely the future, and MemberPass brings that opportunity. We know a lot of credit unions are using it and having great success. For those of you that do not know, Mike, who is normally here, runs CU Broadcast, and CU Broadcast is the premier place to find information about credit unions, credit union topics. He posts, I think, 1 million videos a day, from what I could tell.
He's posting right now.
He's posting right now, yeah, probably. And it's always great content. And I highly recommend you check it out at cubroadcast.com. If you're looking for our content, not only do we do this town hall, but we have podcasts, we have a lot of blogs, we have a lot of information on bigfintech.com, which is one of your responsibilities, correct?
Yes.
And so if you haven't checked out big-fintech.com, we encourage you to go there. So now let's go back and do an introduction to talk about what today's topic is. And we always encourage lots of folks to get involved. Today is a special guest, my son. He is our content manager. He just passed your 6. It's really been 6 years since you've been with us. Wow. He's one of our youngest employees.
6 years yesterday.
6 years yesterday. Wow. And so today we're going to talk a bit about what he has been involved in financially in his life as he's moved along here. And we're going to talk a little bit about some millennial trends. So I'm going to take us through this. As always, we encourage people to get involved, ask questions, but let's get rolling. So first of all, let's describe what a millennial is. So from what I hear, millennials were born between the years of 1981 and 1996. So you really just hit the end of that.
I did.
Yeah, you were right at it. And a lot of millennials are hitting 40. Did you know that, Glenn? Glenn, don't you have a millennial a couple of millennials in your brood? I believe you
I have
do.
a couple kind of on the cusp. I got a 28-year-old and a 24-year-old. Yep.
There you go. Did you know this, Glenn? Millennials account for 72.1 million of the US population. Now, what's interesting about that is, given that it's a demographic that describes them at an age point, I believe we've said many times that the US adult population over 18 is somewhere around 160 million, correct?
It's got to be more than that, doesn't it? What are we at now total? Like
350 million is what I remember my
320,
last time.
350?
Because the boomers are still a big generation.
Yeah, the boomers are still, boomers
You're
are
alive.
still alive. Yeah, you're still living. So anyways, that's more than a third of that group. 39% of millennials have a bachelor's degree or higher, and you've opted to not go that route. Millennial shoppers, get this, Glenn, they spend 600 billion in the United States each year. Can you guess what the average income is of a millennial before taxes, Glenn?
I'm gonna give it a shot. 41.
$41 a week.
41,000.
41,000. If this was The Price is Right, you would be wrong. The price would be wrong. It's 56,099.
How much?
56,000.
Well, I didn't go over. If Price is right. I'm still,
But you could have just bet the dollar. You could have gone that route too.
that's surprisingly high. That is surprisingly high.
But get this. What percentage of millennials prefer to shop online?
70.
91%. You feel like that's a real number?
That's accurate. Yeah.
That's accurate?
Yeah.
Of your friends? Okay.
Yeah. Of me.
Okay. Get this. Here's another question. What percentage of millennial consumers say being a member of a rewards program encourages them to spend more money with a brand? So what percentage of millennial consumers see a rewards program as a very important aspect of why they interact with a brand?
That's interesting. I'm not even sure if I should assume or expect it to be higher or lower than older populations. I don't even have a guess.
It's higher.
It is?
81%. And there's this perception that they're lazy. Nope. Stagnant wages, ballooning student loan debt, increased medical and housing costs combined to ensure that, on average, millennials have less money to spend than previous generations.
We're poor.
You're poor
And-
with $56,000 a year.
Well, you got to think, Glenn, the oldest millennial's 40 years old.
Right. As a matter of fact,
We're getting pretty far along in the career. That's true.
and they hit the worst. They happened to graduate around that 2008 and 9 time frame, which was the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. As a matter of fact, and you would know this, the St. Louis Fed coined a term for them. Do you know what it is?
I don't.
If the super old people are the greatest generation, this is the
Worst generation.
no, lost
The
generation.
hungriest generation.
So that's just some facts. We'll get into more. But Ryan and I talked about this. So we got into the second part of this where we talked about this. Did you know that they are the largest cohort, which, by the way, I believe if you gather a group of millennials, that's officially the flock sort of name. It's a cohort.
Yeah, we're a cohort.
Yeah, like, did you know if you have a bunch of weasels, it's a business of weasels? Did you know that, Glenn?
A murder of crows.
A Murder of Crows, that's true. Which I believe is a band or at least an album name, and Glenn could probably tell us that. So they are the largest group right now buying homes.
Yeah.
That makes
So-
perfect sense.
And it's the consumption habits are more likely to be driven by their values, in sustainable investing and to make workplaces more diverse. So let's talk about that. Are you currently looking for a home?
Yeah. I mean, not currently, but I was in the recent past.
Okay. And so one of the things we talked about, Glenn, and this was kind of the concept, was how do they create wealth? And so for those of you that don't know, and I'm kind of deferring to Glenn. Glenn is I'm using Glenn as sort of my mic bounce off for this thing, but Glenn is the host of our Big Cast podcast along with me, and he is a payments expert and has been in the trading space for a long time. He also happens to be did you know this? That Glenn is was a music critic.
Critique.
Right. He knew REM when they came up. He played with the band for a while, didn't you, Glenn?
You know, that was actually a rumor that I was going on tour with them at my prior company. That is not true. That falls two truths and a lie.
I thought you were in charge of cowbell.
Glenn needs to learn how to lean into the cool rumors.
Right. We'll have to help him with that. So Glenn or Ryan, so what do you see as well, let's start here. Glenn, when you were growing up, what did you perceive as your opportunities to create wealth?
It was much more of a 9-to-5 job, I would say. It was a track along the corporate ladder, and I'm guessing that we're probably moving more toward a gig economy or a shorter stay at each individual company, would be my guess, is where things are heading with the millennials.
Well, but from our perspective, I like what you just said because it's true. Pensions were a thing, right? Ryan, do you know
I was at the very end of that. I mean, I think the 401k was just getting started, and I was already hearing don't expect a pension or Social Security for that matter to be around by the time you retire.
Right. Do you know what a pension plan is?
Yes.
What?
I know what a pension is because we live in a military town, and a pension is like your residual income once you reach a retirement age in the military, right?
Yeah, you would get a pension plan.
Yeah, they would pay out
right
similarly to how you would get paid normally. But
and now what they do is they do a match into something called a 401k,
right?
Which we have at Big.
Correct.
Do you put money into it?
Yes.
Do you put enough to get the match?
No.
Why not?
We're poor.
Okay.
So the slide earlier. So.
Yeah, there's a report, right? Okay. So let's talk about that for a second. So one of the things that we talked about in this meeting was how do you create wealth if you're in this age? And so for you, Glenn, what you just said was you perceive it to be the gig economy. It's not what it used to be for us, which was the stock market was a thing that was kind of coming along, which still seems to be a thing, right?
It is, yeah. More now than
now because it can be better understood.
For me, it was
very cryptic. As
well, you've also today you've got the low cost trading and the day trading. And
retail traders, yeah.
Right, which didn't exist.
No.
Right. So let's start with this.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking for a house.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you learn about buying a house?
You go on YouTube. And you figure out.
Okay.
What is.
So you go on YouTube, and I'm just going to bring up YouTube here. I'll go ahead and share it in our thingy here. So if we go on YouTube and we I believe it's this part, just it.
No, it's that one. I think that one. Yeah.
I don't think you're right.
You think
okay.
What's from?
Right. Okay. There it is. Okay. So let's share this window.
Okay.
Okay. So put it here behind us. Should be able to see it.
Oh no, what I got?
Right. We got to
drag it over.
Click right there. Right
there you go. Boom.
Okay. So what did you type in to figure that out?
Home loan. How does a home loan? Yeah. How do mortgages work?
How do mortgages work? Glenn, how many things do you think will pop up here?
On YouTube?
Yeah.
23,000.
Let's see, how many things did we get? There's a lot. It doesn't tell you anymore. It used to tell you.
Because there's so many.
Okay. So how do you pick? There's at least,
it's a balance, I think, of like views with, and I'll probably watch 4 of these and skim through them.
Okay. Would you
length?
Are some too long?
Yeah, like 20 minutes is too long.
But this guy's got a whiteboard.
I know, and that's cool. But
how about this guy?
Yeah, that's Mr. Dave Ramsey. He's very angry lately.
No, I think you're confusing him with the dude on
What? Jim Cramer?
yeah, I think you're confused him with Kramer. Okay, but this was 3 years ago.
Look at him. Wait, look at him. You move out of it. Tell me that man's not angry.
Yeah, he's talking about in this case, he's talking about principal payments, which is a whole different thing. But okay, Wall Street Survivor, 8 years ago. Okay, this one's only 5 minutes.
And yeah, recent. How recent
Okay.
is it, right?
Okay, so if your credit union had like, doesn't so for those of you that don't know, we are banked with Ent here in Colorado Springs, fantastic credit union. Do they have resources like this?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so how would you get involved with that if you were the
I don't know if they exist here.
what do you mean in YouTube?
Yeah, oh, definitely not.
But YouTube would have been the first place you would go. Oh,
Yeah,
here's
that's
here's
eerie.
Erie. See you. Okay. So, but
But even look, that video is 31 seconds long. That's a commercial. That's not a like I'm not learning from that.
okay. All right. So, all right. So, what did you learn about mortgages from your 5-minute YouTube commercial?
I guess you kind of learn how they function, how to get one, down payments, interest rates.
Okay. But okay, so that's one issue that you kind of see is that your learning is different than say calling the credit union and saying, can I speak to a loan specialist, which is what I would have done. You decided, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and see if I can figure this out on my own by looking online.
Right.
Okay.
I think I'd rather communicate with an expert outside of like I would view calling the loan officer as moving the ball forward, whereas I'm not ready to, you know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't call the loan officer unless I knew I could even do it,
So you don't want to bother the guy unless you're sure that you can.
Yeah, I don't even know what I'm capable of doing.
Right. Okay. So you were going to say something?
Can I ask a question? I'm just curious. The one thing I haven't heard you say, because I think if I'm not mistaken, this is what I did. You wouldn't ask your dad?
Here's what I would do. Well, first and foremost, my dad's a particularly busy person. But second, I would go on YouTube first, and then I usually talk to my dad or my mom for reassurance on what I've learned, or I remember asking him recently if, okay, I heard this is how this works. Is that true? Is there anything?
I think I said, did you look it up on YouTube?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, Glenn, I would probably say, well, did you Google it? I'm pretty big believer in that. But okay, so this is where it gets interesting. So, okay, he's gone out, he's learned about it. And this is something where I wanted to ask this question, Glenn. So Ryan grew up in a credit union family. From the day he was born, I've had a job at the credit union. So he knew about credit unions but what about all your friends? So you've got a pretty big friend group. And, one of the brands that I thought was interesting that you mentioned last time, and Glenn, this will be interesting to you, was the reason I know he has a big friend group is because they use this thing called Venmo, which, I say this thing like it's that weirdo Venmo thing, but we know what it is. Venmo is a person-to-person payments platform. And whenever you do a transfer, I can't see what you're transferring, but I can see Ryan paid, Harry for X, or Jeff sent
I paid
Ryan.
you.
Right. I've seen those, and I don't know if you know that, Glenn, but you can see all the payments going back and forth, which is why I know you have a pretty big friend group.
Unless you reset the privacy. That's true.
Unless you set the privacy to like none.
You can set it to none, but you can set it to
only friends. You could set it to the whole world.
Right, but you could also just remove the amounts.
No, the amounts are always not there.
They're always not there now.
Yeah.
Okay, they were to begin with.
At some point, yeah, I think.
Okay, so we know it's going back and forth, and you don't care about the privacy because you have it set to allow people to see.
Yeah.
Okay, so one, what do your friends do they bank with credit unions?
Some, not all. A few. few.
A few. And why don't they, do you think?
Well, a lot of them bank with USA,
Okay,
which is just because of the military connection.
okay,
I think, I don't know if a credit union is the trendiest option.
okay. So that's where it's interesting. Here's another stat that was kind of interesting to me. It says they're 54% more likely than older generations to buy a product or use a product that was recommended by a social media influencer.
Mm-hmm.
But could that be like a friend or something?
Yeah, that could be anything.
Okay. So you use Venmo to transfer. How do you use Venmo?
Venmo is, I mean, the backbone of my financial existence, I would say.
Give me some examples. Like what do you use Venmo for?
I pay my wife with Venmo.
You have to pay your wife?
Yeah,
Well,
it's a residual.
You made a mistake. But go ahead.
It's cheap.
Well, that's good. At least I guess. But go on.
I pay bills, like she gives me her portion of whatever. My roommate gives me his portion of whatever. And I used to pay rent on Venmo. So that's just the bills portion. If we go to dinner and we split the check on Venmo.
Okay.
If you know, if I text a buddy or a buddy calls me and he says, "Hey, I'm going to Taco Bell. Do you want anything?" I pay him on Venmo for that.
So, okay, fast, safe social payments. So,
yeah.
And how quick do they get that money?
Oh, instantly. And they can instantly put it in their account if you know.
Okay, and you're so you were paying your rent.
Yeah.
With this.
Yeah, I pay a landlord with that.
I paid the landlord with it, and that was his preference, or
her preference.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, interesting. All right.
It was an option. I mean, obviously they'll take the money however you want to give it to them, but you know, she offered Venmo, and I think about it. What I would do is I would bill all the roommates. The roommates would give me money, and then I would give her them all through. Like Venmo, the money never left Venmo.
What do you think of that, Glenn?
Well, I was going to ask that when you start getting into something like rent and the dollar amounts get bigger, then in fact, I know my daughter does that as well. But I was going to ask, how often do you actually put money in or take it out of Venmo? Or is it just money that's bouncing back and forth for one Taco Bell run to another, in and out that just is staying in the Venmo system?
It depends on the amount.
I think this changes the answer to that question, doesn't it, Glenn?
Well, in a way, yeah, I think.
I mean, you don't have to take it out if you got this, right?
I guess
what would be the purpose of taking it out?
Yeah, that's true. I guess the question I had for Ryan is: do you keep a balance in Venmo and draw it down, or do you just have it automatically ding your debit card every time you make a transaction?
I would say I like to keep about $50 in my Venmo, but it depends on the dollar amount. If it's a large dollar amount, it'll probably get moved back to the credit union. But if it's anything under $10, I'm leaving it in Venmo.
So do you move it back to the credit union because you want to get the interest rate on your checking account or savings account?
Yeah, I don't care. No.
Okay.
Really.
Do you move it back because you need to pay for your car?
Yes. I move it back because my Venmo card is not the card I have in any merchants. So
but you could put that in merchants.
You could, yeah, you could. But I would say Venmo.
Although the other thing on that I was going to ask, I'm guessing the way you talked about paying your landlord, I know this is the situation with my daughter. I'm guessing your landlord is basically a mom and pop who's just running one building or a few.
Yeah, well, she has like 3, but it's not like a large. Like the rent I pay now is with a check. Yeah.
So she's not getting hit for a merchant fee for that.
No, if you move the money out of Venmo into your account, you have 2 options. You can either get the money in 3 days, 1 to 3 days. I don't know what that is. As you would know the back end of that. I don't know what that is. That has no fee. If you need the money right now, instant transfer, it's 10% up to $10.
Hmm.
Or
Now that's-
something like that.
That's if you're a consumer though. Because I know that I had a guy came and power washed my house recently, and he very specifically said, make sure you do the Venmo this way because
Yeah, that's recent. That's as of recent.
right.
You can pay businesses that way.
And he wanted to make sure it didn't look like a business because he had no interest in paying them 2 or 3%.
Interesting. Yeah. Huh.
And he was a
Okay, well,
millennial.
go ahead, Glenn.
I said he was a millennial, by the way, too. So, I think some of that comes into play, more and more. It's one thing when you're doing the Taco Bell runs, as Ryan describes. It's another when you start paying rent or paying other types of bills, and it's going to become just another form of interchange. And then you get back to the question of, is the merchant going to push back on that?
So what is the 1 to 3 days
That's what I'm
versus the
seeing.
instant transfer?
What is the 1 to 3 days versus the instant transfer? One is using probably ACH.
That's
Which
the
is-
1 to 3 days.
That's the 1 to 3 days,
Got it.
which is cheaper. The clearinghouse is cheaper for the people transferring it, but it takes longer. It's kind of the equation is the longer it takes, the cheaper it is.
And then what's the instant?
The instant's probably using debit rails or
Okay.
could be using RTP.
I know
Uh,
Zelle is going to start using RTP. I don't know.
I saw that. Yeah. Have you ever used Zelle?
Yes.
What did you use it for?
We paid our last landlord through Zelle
Okay.
because there's no fees.
All right.
So once you get our first landlord was cool. She would
Yeah.
absorb the fee
Mm.
and just whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I think she was pretty well off.
Mm.
But the second landlord, if we were to use Venmo, I would have to give him enough money to cover the fee.
Oh, he'd want you to pay for the fee as well.
Yes. So
So
we
we
went
use
to
Venmo,
Zelle.
he just would go, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, let's keep going here. Well, before we get going, I wanted to, Kevin Sarber, you there? You've got a lot of millennial kids, I believe, like
Chitlins.
10 or 12 of them, I think.
I have 4, yes.
Something like, I knew the number was, not double digits yet, but are you seeing this same behavior?
Yeah, I think they primarily use Venmo, and they speak Venmo is a verb to them. So I'm Venmoing something. It's not a noun anymore. But they use it frequently, and they use it for everything. It could be something as small as, I'm getting paid because I bought somebody a cup of coffee, to I'm paying half my rent to my roommate. They use it for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Now, I will say, what's interesting?
What?
Is there is no currently, I was thinking about this. Even if, let's say, my roommate had banked at Ent as well, there is no easy, simple Venmo-ish way for me to get money from him or him to give money to me.
Well, yeah, I think you have to tie your accounts together.
Right. But this is where another company comes into play, right? That I use is Chime, right? So Chime has all the features of Venmo, but inside of
Just try.
just Chime,
Mm.
which is interesting.
Interesting. So you have a Chime account.
Yeah.
Why do you have a Chime account?
They offered me $100 to open it.
And have you used it since?
I drained the 100 and I don't really touch it.
So clearly it was a good investment on your part.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, and
Well,
I got 200 because I referred my wife, and they give you another 100 for referring somebody. It's a short-term goal, I think, for them.
okay. Well, let me ask this.
Yeah.
According to my notes, millennials spend an average of 211 minutes on apps per day. Now,
That's
can you check that? Don't you
Yeah.
have like some way of looking at that?
that's low for one.
Okay. I said
Um,
average.
I know, but I would say that's low for my age. You gotta keep in mind, millennial up to 40.
So when you did your home mortgage research, did you do that on your phone or on a PC or both?
On a computer, but I'm also like, I also work from home. I'm on,
Yeah.
computers. I think most people would do it on their phone.
Okay. So how many minutes?
How many minutes as of what, last week, let's say?
Yeah. Glenn, can you look up yours? Do you have an iPhone?
I'm sorry, what do you want me to do?
On your phone, you can tell how many minutes you've spent on apps
Hmm,
for the day.
I've not done that.
Not on average, I spent last week 5 hours and 55 minutes on my phone a day.
5 hours and 55 minutes?
Yeah.
So that's 355 minutes, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
355 minutes. Wow. So it's even more.
yeah.
Well, okay. So where do you find that on your iPhone?
It's an app called Screen Time.
Screen time.
It's-
Anybody? So I would love for anybody else on this call who has an iPhone to go into Screen Time and tell us what your average is on the chat. That would be awesome. I'd love to know what that is. But what that's telling me is that the app is really important.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, listen, I have friends.
Mhm.
I won't name names.
Okay, good.
Not
I
friends,
know what
but
you
credit unions. Credit unions.
Right.
I moved them. I convinced them to move to X because the app with their credit union locally here was so bad that it didn't have the features, it didn't have anything. And I told them, I'm like, how do you live your life if your app is so bad? Like their app was one of those ones that's like a browser, it's an app, but it's really just kind of opening up a browser. That makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a real app.
No, it's not.
So Elliot is 2.5 hours a day.
yeah.
Andrew Taylor, 2 hours, 31 minutes. Jeremy, 3 hours, right? And that's about 8 hours and 20 minutes. Madison, my goodness. Gary, wow. I would not have thought Gary would have spent that much time online. I'm impressed. But how much, Gary, of that is Candy Crush? Oh, okay, that's what I was gonna say. Somebody already got there. Okay. All right, well, that's fascinating. So may not just be millennials. That might be everyone.
Well, no, I mean, but look, mine, look at Gary. Gary's at 2 hours and 50 minutes. I don't know how old Gary is, okay? But I'm almost double Gary.
Oh, Gary is
Young.
ancient.
Oh, he
Ancient.
is.
Oh, yeah. Gary was born when rocks were.
Gary's been
Oh,
Gary's been around.
yeah. He's, okay.
But yeah, so I'm more than double Gary.
Okay. That's interesting.
If you think about that on a daily thing, that's a lot, Oh, look, he okay boomer himself.
Mhm.
And he okay boomer you.
Well, yeah. I don't believe that. Okay, so
Can you guys do that? Can boomers do that to each
I
other?
guess. All right, so here's some more statistics. Glenn, this will be good for you. So we have 42% of millennials say taking out a student loan was not worth it. Each millennial, on average, most millennials carry about $4,712 in credit card debt.
Mhm.
Credit card debt, not student debt, credit card debt. Wow.
Credit card debt.
And again, I don't know. I don't know if we have data that can carve it up. To me, there's, and I guess it's always true in different categories. There's a big difference between a 25-year-old and a 40-year-old.
Well, I was about to say, the 23-year-old, somewhere between up to the 23-year-old millennial carries somewhere around $2,288 in debt.
So they're that high already. Wow.
56% of millennials say they do not have a retirement savings account.
Mhm.
Do you have a retirement savings account?
No. Well, is a 401k that?
No.
Okay, then no.
No, I'd say yeah.
You'd say it was?
Yeah.
Well, I'll have Kevin break the tie. Kevin?
I'm with Glenn. That's a retirement account.
What's that?
It's a retirement account.
A 401k?
Yep.
Okay. Well, all right. So we'll call it that. So you have one because of the company.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I'm fortunate in that, I would say.
Yeah.
You know?
56% of millennials say they are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, I think that's pretty true.
All right. 76% of millennials carry some kind of debt.
Yeah.
Of those with debt, 16% of millennials say they owe 50,000 or more.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a house or a car. Cars are expensive these days. 76% of millennials say they are unable to achieve their personal and financial goals because of their debt.
Yeah, I think student loans probably the majority of that.
So student loan is a big one as a topic.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Okay.
Question. You said that we were the lost generation because of the recession,
Mhm.
right? Is COVID that as well? Like we're in it, right? So there's no way to like, we're in the middle of it still, but in the future, will we, I mean, if you think about it, we've been hit hard twice. Like a 40-year-old has been hit hard twice. Like a 40-year-old retail worker would have been hit hard twice.
Well, theoretically, we all were hit hard twice.
I know, but I'm saying like,
Yeah, trying to get into it. I don't know. This is something that I was really looking into. I'd be interested in. So let me answer that question by asking a question to begin with.
okay,
So lately, I've been noticing supply shortages on like stupid things like going to Walmart. And I don't think I've ever been to Walmart in my entire life where I went down the soda aisle and there was no soda. Yet I've been now 3 or 4 times where there's literally almost nothing on the shelves. This is Walmart. Is anyone else experiencing this?
gas station. I went to the Come and Go, the gas station, and they had I went to get Emery a Dr. Pepper, my wife. No Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
Like what? That's so weird.
So has anyone else experienced, Glenn, have you experienced anything like that?
Yeah, it's very episodic, but yeah, there's definitely, you turn the corner and you got one section of the supermarket and the shelves are clear and you have to think for a second, what used to be there? If it's not something you're looking for, and I've been lucky that for the most part it hasn't been, but I'm like, I know something's out. I just don't know what it is.
Kevin, you were going to say?
Yeah, we definitely have it in Southern California, because we have all those container ships out in the harbors that can't get in because of all the workers that haven't come back from COVID. So it, like you said, it's not consistent, but we're back to hoarding paper towels and toilet paper like the beginning of COVID. So.
Yeah, and that was fascinating. That was fascinating to me. The other thing I thought was interesting, the same exact thing. I went somewhere just recently that should have been open, like something that you would think, oh yeah, that would always. Oh, it was 7-Eleven. I went to a 7-Eleven. It was like 2:30 in the a.m. Not gonna lie, I was up late doing some work and decided I was madly coding and decided to go get something. And it said a note on the door that said because of staffing issues, we're not open 7.
I got an email yesterday from the library, and they're not open. They're not.
Andrew Taylor wants to know I was madly coding on. Lunch meat, that's another one. I've seen that.
But yeah, so like I went to the library is not open as much as it used to be. They're shortening their hours. They're not open on. A lot of the branches aren't open on Saturdays anymore. A lot of restaurants shut early now because of the staff shortages. And did you see the Kellogg strike? Every Kellogg plant in the country is on strike right now. 1,500 workers.
Yeah, but I guess where I'm going on the economy thing here is, I'm confused. Did we just have not that many people come back to work?
Yeah.
Or is it that enough people died that we don't have a worker shortage? I'm confused as to if I ask when I it wasn't just me at the 7-Eleven, a cop followed me there. I guess I looked shifty that late at night in my truck, and got out. And he got out. I guess honestly, I think he was going to 7-Eleven too. Said, yeah, it's we're still paying the unemployment, so we stop that, people aren't going to come back to work, and I don't think we are anymore. Kevin, are we still paying that? I thought that stopped months ago.
Well, I think they just put a new program through last month to extend a little bit, but it's different based on what's going on. But we also saw a different thing, John, when we were in Arizona. Remember the daily pay in trying to attract staff to come
Yes,
back.
yeah. Work right now, get work today, get paid tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and people are offering cash bonuses.
Oh yeah.
sign on.
Every McDonald's you see has a big sign up front that says, "We'll give you $200 to come work here."
Right.
And apparently that's not enough.
Well, and I'll tell you what I think happened. And this is, my wife's in the service industry, her whole family's in the service industry. What I've heard is that COVID turned working in the service industry into a literal nightmare, right? You had people, mask mandates, people that, were yelling at the workers because they didn't want to wear the mask, or, whatever it was, people getting sick because they, essential workers getting sick. Because I think Target paid them like $300 extra or something, So it's like, for working through a pandemic, you got $300 extra, and so I just don't, I think a lot of people are very turned off from working in the service industry right now.
So a couple comments in the thing here I think were interesting, Kevin. I don't know if you saw these, or Glenn. Jim from Wyoming says the borders are closed, not as many foreign workers here. Alan from Ukrainian out in Arizona, out in Mr. Althouse, $2,000 for those who go off unemployment to take a job. Wow. So, I guess it's hard for me to fathom that this is such a big economic downturn when there's so much opportunity for work.
Right.
Like this,
But is it the catch up, right? Is it like the minimum wage has been so low for so long and all these things that like now this is like the big shift to correcting that,
Well, I think what you said was interesting. COVID made an already difficult job more difficult.
Absolutely.
So I could see your point there, but Kevin,
And more dangerous.
yeah, Kevin, you were going to say something. You were on mute, and then you popped off. I thought you had a comment here.
No, I was just going to joke about the frontline workers who also are duct taping customers to their seats on airplanes.
Right.
Well, yeah, but that should have been happening before COVID.
And arguably that's a perk.
Right. That's
kind of fun.
Yeah, because turbulence isn't as bad.
I was actually going to jump in on a couple of things. One, the piece about foreign workers. They're getting that even heavier in the UK because so many of their drivers were from outside the UK.
Right.
And with Brexit, they're now trying to issue special visas to get some, because they're, for all the container issues we've got. Everything that comes to the UK is coming in, even to a greater extent, and they've got a greater shortage there.
And that's as a result of Brexit, though, as opposed
exactly,
to
but it still comes down to foreign workers.
Okay, yeah, but I'm just saying it wasn't COVID related. I don't
Right,
think it
right.
was COVID.
But yeah, but the supply chain mess up is, exacerbating it. Which, to Ryan's point again, you're right that I think that there's a catch up about the minimum wage. The quality of life and the nature of the job got worse because of COVID. But the other thing, and I posted a link to this in this week's podcast too. There was an interesting, I don't even know who the woman was. She was some kind of consultant they interviewed on Marketplace on public radio this week. And I thought it was an interesting concept that you've got a whole bunch of people who kind of got kind of a free extra kick nudge to move into kind of an entrepreneurial gig economy, whatever you want to call it, kind of lifestyle. And, they got money for a while to sit at home and do it. They could kind of get things started. And maybe they discovered that, I can basically match this salary by cobbling together bits and pieces and do just as well as I did doing this job that I really didn't enjoy that just got even worse. So why should I go back? Because I can now suddenly, there's statistics that show that more new businesses started up over the course of the last year. Now, whether those are ever really going to be businesses or if it's really just one person setting up, a shingle to say they'll do whatever it takes. But I think some of it is just, if the price is that low and if the job is that unpleasant, then I can find other ways to make ends meet.
So this is interesting, and Lisa points out from AAFCU, which I assume is Air Academy here in Colorado Springs, possibly. She was saying that they've had turnover within the CU because people are reevaluating how they want to spend their lives.
I think that's true too. Think about it. Work from home.
American Airlines. Thank you, Lisa. Sorry.
Work from home, right?
Uh-huh.
I think work from home went from a cool perk to, for a lot of people, and Melissa can speak to this too, is with her husband, is a breaking point, right? It's like everybody, you can't take it away with a lot of these jobs, you know? You gave everybody the opportunity to work from home. You gave them that quality of life boost, you know? And now you're going to what? Recall everybody and back to their cubicle holes, you know?
Well, for the longest time,
another exodus as we require more office time.
The thought was it couldn't be done. Well, guess what? We proved it could be done.
Yeah, and my other question is, so piggybacking on Lisa's comment, which I think was interesting, say Alan, True West, or some of the other Canadians that are here present, are you seeing the same thing? Are you seeing turnover? Gary, out in your neck of the woods, Jim, has there been a large attrition because of the recall back to the office, or just in general because of the quality of life issues? Has anyone else experienced that? Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, so good to see you. Good to see you, Ryan.
Good to see you too.
Yes, we're seeing turnover as well, and recruitment is an issue. Getting people to apply, even. I think we're talking about hiring incentive, but I don't know that we've pulled that trigger yet or not.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm just I'm just fascinated that's go ahead, Alan. I see Alan popped up. Hey, how are you? Great to see you.
Great, good to see you too. Our turnover is up, but not a ton. But we haven't made virtually anybody come back to the office. So we allowed all of the teams to meet and determine how best to work going forward. We gave them a ton of flexibility as long as they're productive. And so out of our 180 HQ staff, about 30 of whom work from home pre-pandemic, on any given day, we've got about 140 at home.
Which, pre-pandemic would have been, on any given day, you would have had 5 people at home, right?
Well, pre-pandemic, we actually, on any given day, we'd have about 30.
Oh, okay. That's pretty high. I mean,
yeah, we were pretty flexible pre-pandemic, but now it's gone from 30 to 150.
Wow.
Our people on the branches can't work from home, and so we've had to do a lot to entice people in the branches to not seek transfers into back office.
Interesting. And so, this goes back to your economic downturn question. And Alan, you've been looking at this stuff forever. What do you think from Ryan's perspective as you look at this? I know that you, in working with your organization, I saw kind of what you guys were planning as a millennial outreach and what you were doing. Do you feel like that tide continues to shift in terms of the economics out there, that it's not stabilized yet and it's hard to put a plan together for someone like Ryan, or how do you see that as in the leadership?
Well, yeah, I think we haven't gotten to the other end of this yet, and when we do, I don't think it'll be like it was pre-pandemic.
Yeah, and that's where
it's definitely normal.
Yeah, and that's where I was going is, if that's the new normal, then what products and services do we have to have out there to continue to be of service if that's the way, if people aren't going to, like, for example, if you're working on your own, it goes back to that retirement and services question that we had, retirement account question that we had. they're not likely to have that retirement account. Is that a service we need to ramp up for that group from a financial health and well-being standpoint? For people who are in this gig economy or have chosen to become their own, entrepreneurs in a less than official way, or an official, it's hard to explain, but you see where I'm going?
Yeah, yeah. It definitely has to be a focus.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what's interesting to me as we grow with that. And I know you guys have moved into the community colleges and some of those areas and have made a real impact there, a really good impact. So yeah, I'm just fascinated by what this means and how that plays out. But even high turnover without you having people come back it's interesting, because it used to be a craving job was like, oh, that was a dream,
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
fact that
Yeah, to be clear, our turnover hasn't jumped up a ton, but we monitor it really closely. It's one of the key statistics on our dashboard month in and month out. And we are trending higher than we were the last few years. But the folks who are leaving are just people who I think have been affected by the pandemic and rethought what life is to them. We had a couple of older workers who decided to retire earlier than they originally intended. We had somebody who just decided they wanted to move home. Home for them was across the country. And
wow.
Well, and he's had so far, they're really flexible with working from home.
Yeah.
I think that's big.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right, wait, Alan, any questions for my millennial?
no, I'm good, thanks.
All right.
Interesting conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, does anybody else have any questions for Ryan? I think we covered what we covered in the CUMA stuff for the most part. Does anybody have any questions, the burning question for a millennial that you didn't want to ask your own millennial because you're afraid of offending them,
and they don't like you.
They're tricky like that. Like they spook easily.
They do.
Right. Like, yeah.
I have a question for Ryan.
I knew Gary would. Go ahead, Gary.
Why do you think Venmo has become the default way to pay your friends and rent and other things? The financial institutions want you to use Zelle, right? But my I have two daughters around your age, and they also use Venmo and only Venmo, and they have no interest in changing.
Right. I would say this is the main point. One, the value of the app or whatever the service or whatever it is directly tied to the community and the users, the amount of users that are on it. So there's so many people on Venmo that it's not an option to change, because you would have to move to Zelle. You would have to convince everybody that you pay regularly to move to Zelle. It's not like I can Zelle you through Venmo. So the problem is that once you reach this threshold, which I think Venmo has, where you have the market, you're stuck because everyone else is there. So you can't, there's no flexibility there. Like if I were to say, hey, Venmo me. I have a friend who lives on the western slope of Colorado. His name's Chris. He's not as tuned into all this stuff because he grew up in a mountain town, small community, and he doesn't have Venmo. And it's like if I need him to pay me, when I first needed him to pay me, and I was like, hey, just Venmo me, it's fine. He's like, I don't have Venmo. It's like a jaw-dropping thing, because it's the best way I could put it is it's game breaking. Like, okay, how do I get your money? You need to get Venmo so I can get your money.
Do you remember what the first occasion was that you needed Venmo, and so how you got started and how long ago that was?
I got started on Venmo sometime in high school. I would say it's probably June 2014, 2013.
Okay, so it's been around for a while.
Oh yeah, I mean they've had the market for a long time. And I used to pay my friends for lunch in high school on Venmo. And so, you know,
There's some other apps that like Square Cash. You can do the same thing with Square Cash. Some people use that, but most of them are like small businesses because they have the device where they can use their phone to get paid.
right,
That's kind of the niche for that, but it's broader than that, so that you could use it for both doing Venmo and other things.
right.
What are your thoughts of why Venmo has become the default?
I genuinely think it's become the default because at some point enough people have it that there's no real other option, because the value in Venmo is the other people that are on it. Like it's I would say it's almost similar to like a FaceTime or like even like a Facebook or something, you know, because other people are on it, so that's how you communicate with those people. And so I will say where Venmo's missing out is, you know, I don't know if they have like a POS. I don't know if they have, you know, it's really kind of hard to connect Venmo to a merchant.
Well, how many of your friends have that debit card?
All of them.
All of them have that debit card. Do your daughters have that debit card, Gary?
I don't think so, but I'll have to check with them. I didn't know that they had a debit card.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Us old farts, we don't know that they even have a card. And did you notice, let me see the card again. Did you notice that the card, this was interesting. I discovered this the other day, that people are going to this portrait. Now, they didn't do a great job of it, but they're going to this portrait mode.
Because it's chip.
Well, it's chip and you plug it in. I've seen people putting the logo down here.
So it sticks out.
But there was a question up here, and you actually referred to this. You said your landlord in Texas said that he wanted you to pay Zelle because he didn't want the fees.
Yeah.
And so to answer Mr. Schmidt, the answer is yes. There's absolute truth to that because he insisted on that. Right?
Oh, he wouldn't let us.
Right, because I had to co-sign for it. So he threatened us, I think.
He did.
Yeah, he was a very dangerous man,
He was
from what I could
an
tell.
angry man.
Angry man.
But as I said in the chat box, I mean, that might get you to actually download Zelle or use Zelle on your online banking app or whatever to make that payment. The question is it enough to make you move your Venmo traffic there? Or do you just want using that one for one or two?
No way. It would take, I don't know what would have to happen for Venmo to not be the standard. I don't know. I mean, keep in mind, there's two standards in my eyes. I think Venmo's the clear front runner, but I've seen, and this goes to show you, Gary, the community aspect of it. I've had friends and friend groups, especially from other states and stuff, where they use Cash App. So it's like all their friends use Cash App.
Yeah,
like when
Cash
I
App
lived in
is-
Texas, Cash App was kind of the thing that everyone used locally.
Yeah.
And so I think it really depends on
Regionality to some extent.
no, where the people are, where your people are, right?
Does
But,
Venmo charge
you know-
fees?
Venmo,
Yeah.
not between, to move it off of Venmo, to move your money back to your credit union or whatever, yes.
Okay.
But between each other, no.
Okay.
Well, I think
That's the hook. It's really easy to send money and pull
Yeah.
money, right? Because you can pull money from somebody else too, right?
Yeah, I can request money.
Right. So that's free. But then
Right.
to actually get money out, you have to pay a fee for that.
Yeah.
So that's because they have to make their money somehow, right? They're not going
Right.
to provide it.
Well, and
Everything
that's what's interesting to me, Gary, and it's going to be a topic for a future platform here is, what we just saw with Facebook. I believe that if you look at Venmo, it really has a Facebook arc to some extent, because it's built on community, it's built on scale. Eventually, those chickens come home to roost, which is what happened with Facebook. They had to find a way to become profitable. And the only real way to become profitable was to sell us and our data, which we've talked about many times.
Well, and Venmo just started offering a really cool looking credit card.
Right.
Look at that.
Yeah, which you could scan and pay your friends.
And you get $100.
And $100. So I guess I got to go get that set up.
But and I don't know, like look, they got 3% back on grocery, 2% back on bills and utilities, 1% on everything. I mean, my credit card with a credit union has none of this.
Right. And that's an issue.
Turn
That's
your
a
cash
whole
back.
nother issue.
Look, you can buy crypto with your
Yep.
cash back.
Well, guess what, folks? It is 2:00. And we're starting to lose people, but this has been a great session. Thank you for joining us, Ryan. Thanks for
Yep.
coming over here.
Yep.
And,
Oh, if you want to Venmo me, my Venmo is at Ryan-Vest22.
and I will tell you that I said this in the Q&A thing, not understanding or having a Venmo account in this day and age, if you work at a credit union and at least doing a few transfers, is a little like he'll send you a request.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, he wants money.
Go ahead.
It's a little like working at Blockbuster and not understanding streaming. I don't think it's going to end well. I think we got to learn what this is. We've got to see it for what it is. We have to inquire. The fact that, Gary, I was surprised too when he broke out a debit card. That should not surprise us. We have competition that's sneaking in the back door, and we have got to. And Gary, you well know from your work with, analytics, that we already have enough attrition in terms of finance in our DDA accounts that we can't afford more. So yeah, interesting stuff and interesting times. Thank you everyone for joining us. Next week, we're going to talk, Glenn and I are going to talk about this Facebook stuff. I'm fascinated by it. I think that there is an impact. Credit unions use Facebook. I've seen lots of credit unions using Facebook for advertising. What does that mean? How does it play out? What happens if there's regulation? And they've also gotten into the money space. So, and then also Google just killed off their checking account thing that they were working on. So some fascinating moves going on in the space, particularly in the non-banking players. And I think it's something to discuss. So thanks everyone. Gary, good to see you.
Thanks.
And
Yep,
thanks
good to
everyone
see you
else for
guys.
joining.
Good to
Take
see you,
care.
Ryan. Talk to you later.